What is going on, guys? Smooth Racing here, back with a brand new video, and today we've got a top 5. Now I know it's not Friday, but this calls for a very special occasion on this Thursday, as it is the 20th anniversary of the death of Ayrton Senna. We'll be celebrating his life with another top 5, and today's top 5 then is Senna's top 5 greatest Formula 1 races, and we'll be counting down his top 5 most memorable, but mostly his greatest. We won't be including some of the controversial ones, like the Japanese 1989 Grand Prix, or indeed the Japanese 1990 Grand Prix, as they were very controversial and I don't think they really reflected him in the best light. But we'll start out then with number 5 on our countdown, and that is the Monaco Grand Prix 1984. Now this was only Senna's 6th F1 race, and you know he'd won the British F3 Championship in the previous year, and now he'd come in a very average Tolman car from 13th on the grid to 2nd, and as the race came to an end, he was really getting on the lead at Alain Prost. But then of course the race was red flagged. Had that race not been red flagged, then I think Ayrton Senna could be pulling away with a victory in only his 6th F1 race, a very remarkable achievement. Just from this only 6th F1 race, we could tell that Senna was something special, and this was certainly one of his greater races. Moving on to number 4 in his countdown then, and it is the Brazilian Grand Prix 1991, while driving in a McLaren. And this was one of his many wet weather races wins, but this was slightly different, as he was so exhausted by at the end of the race that he had to be lifted out of the car. He was so emotionally drained and so physically drained. He'd really put his all into it and really deserved the win. He had really strong challenges from the Charger Nigel Mansell, and then Riccardo Patrese was really hot on his tail, but Ayrton Senna managed to defend very well, despite losing 4th, then 3rd, and then 5th gears before getting stuck in 6th gear. So really remarkable stuff from Senna, to battle through all those problems and overcome them, and really just put everything he had on the line for this race win. And he did win the race in the end. And of course that year he would later go on to win the championship, I believe, or was it Prost? Could have been Prost, but definitely one of his finer races, Brazilian Grand Prix 1991. Moving on then to number 3 in our countdown, and that is a Japanese Grand Prix 1988. He started from pole position, but then he slipped to 14 after stalling on the grid. However, this is sort of a typical Senna scenario. He'd battle his way through the field to secure the victory. And of course this would, in turn land him his first World Championship in the penultimate race of the season. And what a way to win the championship. Definitely deserved that. He really just turned it on in the latter part of 1988. I think he won 4 races in a row to win the championship. So remarkable stuff from Ayrton Senna. And this is definitely one of his greatest races, after coming from 14th to win the race. Typical Senna. Very, absolutely fantastic, and definitely one of the greatest drivers of all time. Just missing out then on top spot in number 2 is the European Grand Prix Donington 1993, one of his, I think this could have been his last ever win, or one of his last ever wins, and this is definitely many people's favourite Senna race, but the man himself placed it behind Estoril, but I think he watch. I'll get onto that in a minute, but sorry about that. But Donington was very wet as usual, being rainy Britain, but Senna showed his complete mastery of the conditions with one of his most emphatic drives, winning by more than a minute. An amazing achievement, and of course, Senna's so good in the wet, really a rain master. But as I mentioned there before, he did actually, although this is considered one of his, best races, favourite Senna races, he actually replaced, this is himself, placed Estoril ahead of that, saying that was better, and that's why I put Estoril Portuguese Grand Prix 1985 as number 1. He followed up his first ever pole position in Formula 1 with a victory in what was only his 2nd race for Lotus at a very wet Estoril, typical Senna style to win in the wet. I think 4 of the 5 races that I mentioned have been in the rain. He was so good in the wet. He lapped everyone except 2nd place man Michael Alboreto, who was more than a minute behind. So really impressive stuff from Senna to lap the whole field apart from one, and that person was a minute behind him. So just domination from Senna. And let's be honest, the Lotus 1985 was not the best car. He really produced the goods to beat the Ferrari of Alboreto. So great stuff from Senna. All those races I mentioned could have been worthy of number 1. I'll be really interested in hearing your top 5 ever Senna F1 races down in the comments. Be sure to leave them there. Please like, share and subscribe for weekly F1 and motorsport content. Sorry I haven't uploaded in a while, but the uploads will continue to flood in the next few days, and tomorrow is my 100 video special, so hopefully that'll be something to look forward to with I've been Smooth Racing, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.